Yo, welcome back to the Squad YouTube channel to a brand new video, and today we're going to be looking at the top 8 decks from the most recent EU Late Night Tournament. Of course, the Late Night did have an EU tournament, and of course, we do have some pretty interesting decks here in the top 8. We even have a deck that sort of fell off for a while in our top 8. We're definitely going to be looking at that and kind of looking at the list and the matchups and all that stuff. But if y'all are going to go on to enjoy the video, make sure you leave a like. And if you want to show your support on the channel and all that good stuff, leave in a comment down below too what you thought of these top 8 decks would also be appreciated. And you can check out our sponsors down below too. But let's take a look at the top 8. So of course, the winning deck in the top 8 was actually an Arceus Duraludon deck won by Amateur here, using that Arc Duralist to win the entire tournament. Arc Dura is one of the most straightforward decks in the format. It's not bad in the format. It's not like one of the best decks, but definitely is still a top tier contender. Regardless, Arc Dura can still do Arc Dura things. As we can see, this list here is very straightforward. It does play the 4 Colress, the 4 Boss, 3 Marnie, having the Hyper Potion, the Paracel, actually opting to play 3 Lost City and a Training Court over Temple of Sinnoh, which is something that we've actually seen Arc Dura decks adapt in the format. Is actually playing Temple of Sinnoh in the deck to try to help you a little bit against Lugia, and it gives you like an extra protection against Yveltal. But this build just was like, nah, we're not taking out the Yveltal. We're just going to play 2 Paracel and 3 Lost City and a Training Court, which is a very interesting take on the Arceus Duraludon list. We can take a look at the matchups here that they played against. We saw that they did play against a decent variety. We saw that they beat Regis, beat Lugia, actually ended up beating Giratina, which is interesting. I don't know if Giratina is the greatest matchup for Arc Dura, but it is interesting that they beat it. Beat a Lost Box, beat a Vigavolt deck, which is a great matchup, I think, for the deck. Actually ended up beating another Vigavolt deck here in the finals. Beat a Goodra deck, which is a fine matchup, and then took the tie into the top 8, which is pretty interesting. So Arc Dura, still doing Arc Dura things. However, the big story was actually the second place deck actually ended up being a Vigavolt Regieleki VMAX deck. This is a deck that got a lot of hype when Silver Tempest first released, but kind of fell off afterwards. I think a lot of people realized that the Vigavolt Mew Engine deck is just better than using it with Regieleki, but this build opted for the Regieleki and ended up doing pretty well. Of course, Regieleki does let Vigavolt do 30 more damage, which can be a little bit more beneficial than having that Zapdos Goon combo, but the Goon combo does give you more advantages in certain scenarios, but this build actually gets to play a little bit more hyper-aggressive, which does help quite a bit. Of course, the Raikou V is really good too. You got the 2 Temple Sinnoh, 2 Mountain. We got the Choice Belt, the 4 Seal Stone. Very straightforward list. I'm surprised there's no Sky Seal Stone. I feel like if you were to play Regieleki Vigavolt, I do like the idea of maybe running the Sky Seal Stone in the deck for extra protection. But hey, you know what? It worked out for them anyways. We can take a look here at the matches here. We saw that they beat Regis, which is an interesting matchup. I think Regis is pretty favored. In fact, because of the amount of damage you can do with Regieleki, you basically force the Regi deck to actually get a lot going, and if they don't get a lot going, then, you know, if they can't set up quick enough, then you just run them over because you're doing so much damage with Regieleki. Actually, funny thing is, they played against 4 Regi decks, only losing to 1 Regi deck here in Swiss. Did beat a Lost Box, beat a Mew deck, tied to the Arc Dura deck, beat the Lugia deck, beat the Goodra deck, and I think Goodra is an interesting matchup. I think Goodra is actually pretty favored with the Regieleki because your damage output is higher. It's easier to kind of run through Goodras, and of course, Goodra struggles to set up anyways when you're item locking them. Beat the Vigavolt deck, and actually probably beat the Vigavolt deck with the Zapdos, proving that this Vigavolt deck has a little bit more oomph in that. But I ended up losing to Arc Dura in the top cut here. So very cool to see Regieleki Vigavolt win, or get second place anyways. I think it's definitely a very interesting deck. It's not bad by any means. Again, it has a little bit more advantages over the Zapdos build, so it is cool to see Regieleki Vigavolt do well. I definitely think this deck is not terrible by any means, and I think that it's still worth maybe experimenting with in our standard format. Because, yeah, it seems pretty good, and it's cool to see it do well. So congrats to Rendy for kind of maybe reviving the deck. But, of course, in third place, we have the other Vigavolt deck. We have the Zapdos build of Vigavolt. Now, this build does have a couple more advantages over the Regieleki build. It's a little bit more straightforward. It has a little bit more of a consistency engine with Mew, so you get to kind of draw through your deck a lot faster. Also, getting to play an extra Raikou is nice. This build does play Path and Sky Seal Stone. Very similar, I think, to the Vigavolt deck from the Seniors Division at OCIC. But yeah, kind of a battle of the Vigavolt decks in the top cut. We kind of get to see the matchup spread here, and we do see they did play against an other deck. I don't know what that was. We saw Mew, we saw Regis, beating the Reggie deck, losing to Arcdura once again, beating a couple Lost Box decks along the way, beating tying to the Goodra deck, beating Lugia deck, and then, of course, losing to the Vigavolt Regieleki deck in top 4. So that's kind of cool to see a battle of the Vigavolt decks. And then, of course, we got Reggie's and top 4. Very straightforward list. It looks like it's actually very close to Rahul's list, except for the Energy Lotto was cut, and actually just going all in on the 4 Trekking Shoes. But maybe not actually. Playing a little bit more heavier of a speed energy count. Actually playing 3 Regieleki, so trying to go a little bit more aggressive with the Terra Spark. I like that. Trying to get a turn 1 Terra Spark a lot quicker is actually pretty clever, so I do like that. We did see they did play against a lot of Lost Box. We see 4 Lost Box decks in Swiss. Did play against a couple Lugia decks too, and ended up beating a Mew. So the matchup spread was actually pretty good for them. Playing against, I guess, like the ideal matchups. I guess the baby Regieleki lets you kind of play a little bit more turbo and lets you potentially get a bit of a higher chance of donking Lost Box. That's kind of cool. I guess that's like the advantage of playing. The list is gone. That's the advantage of playing the higher count of Regieleki and speed energy. We saw Lugia, of course, get 5th place. Nothing crazy here. This Lugia list does play a Judge as a tech card to kind of disrupt Lost Box, I guess. It does have 2 Marnie and 1 Judge. And Judge isn't terrible in Lugia. It does let you shuffle your hand in, so it puts energy in the deck, and it helps a little bit against Lost Box. And I guess it could be good against Mew if they path or something, and it just seems like a decent supporter card to play. In Lugia, looking at the matchups here, played against a lot of Lugia, played against some Lost Zone decks, actually played against more Goodra than Lost Box, but unfortunately ended up losing to the Reggie deck in top cut. And then, of course, we got our first Goodra deck in top 8, 2 Goodra decks in top 8. This Goodra list here, very straightforward Goodra build, opting to not play the Roxanne, but playing the Marnie instead, but also playing 4 Temple of Sinnoh and 0 Big Paracel, so just kind of going all in on the fact that you're going to take an L to at least 1 Yveltal, or trying to at least make it so Yveltal is shut off with Temple of Sinnoh. So, an interesting take on Goodra. Actually playing a 3-4 Goodra line in the list. Very heavy kind of Goodra, and even double Drapion to try to give you a better time against Mew. So, very cool list. I mean, Goodra doesn't seem bad. It actually might be an okay deck going into Knoxville, because it's good against Azul's OCIC deck. If you put a Choice Belt in the deck, I think maybe this Goodra deck could actually be optimal, because you could play the Choice Belt to help against Control and Dragonite V, which I think are going to be very popular. So, yeah, that was the first Goodra deck in top 8. There's another one. We do see the matchups Goodra hit. Played against some Mew. Obviously, the double Drapion helped. Played against 3 Mew, actually. Beat a Goodra Mirror, and then beat another Goodra Mirror, and then beat the Vigavolt Regieleki deck. Lost to Lugia, but ended up losing to Vigavolt Regieleki in the top 8. We got yet another Lugia deck here in the top 8. This one plays a bit more heavier count of the double turbos, playing 3 double turbos, but nothing really crazy here, just kind of a straightforward Lugia list, playing the 3 Lugia V-Stars for trying to max consistency. But we can take a look at the matchup spread. Played against 2 Vigavolt decks, lost to the 1 in top 8. Did beat actually lost to a Hisuian Zoroark deck in Swiss, but that's interesting. And then we see the matchup spread here kind of play out. And then the last deck in top 8, yes, we had another Goodra deck in top 8. This one actually was a very teched out Goodra deck. This one actually played Sableye and Articuno, so actually trying to be a little bit more of a countery Goodra deck. So we do see the 2-3 Goodra line. We see the Drapion, the Comfey, the Cram, the normal stuff you'd see in Goodra. But again, the big story of this list was actually playing the Sableye and the Articuno, and even a Raihan and Marnie. So no Roxanne, actually playing Raihan and Marnie. Playing the Temple Sinnoh, but also playing an Energy Recycler. So trying to be a little bit more of a counterbox deck. I kind of like this idea. Just play the Articuno to paralyze the opponent. That does help against Lugia. And Articuno is good in other matchups too, not just Lugia. And of course, the Sableye does give you a little bit more leeway. I don't know what matchup Sableye is specifically for. It might help, I guess, against Yveltal. You can, like, Sableye and knock out the Yveltal. It's definitely an interesting take on the Goodra deck. It's interesting, Goodra's techs have kind of evolved. A lot of the time, people are like, oh, Goodra might get to play the new Zamazenta, but no, Goodra maybe is just better with Articuno Sableye. I do like this idea. The deck did get top 8. We can take a look at the matchup spread here real quick, see how they did. We saw they beat Arcdura, very interesting matchup. I think that's maybe where the Articuno came in handy. Actually beat a Lugia deck, beat a Flying Pikachu Arceus deck, beat the Giratina deck, but lost to the Goodra Mirror, which I guess is interesting. You do have the Sableye, but if the Goodra does have the Paracel, then I guess Sableye's not as good. But I think this was the Goodra deck we already looked at, and that didn't play Paracel. Beat 2 Lugia decks, and actually just took the Tide of Vigavolt, but ended up playing against Arcdura again and losing. Again, Arcdura does seem like a tough matchup, even though you do have Articuno. I guess if they do play the big Parasol, things do get awkward, but I do like the creativity behind this, kind of trying to expand and evolve upon the Goodra. We've seen a couple more, Goodra decks before. We even saw Josh Frink on our team and Alex Szymanski on our team trying to evolve the Goodra deck, playing at the Thorn and the Ice Cube. So Goodra has room for evolution. Just kind of going straight in on the Goodras definitely is a good idea. And I mean, it's the build of Goodra that did better in the tournament, but kind of expanding on the Goodra build a little bit more and evolving and trying out different tech cards definitely seems like a really cool way to kind of go forward with Goodra. So it is cool to see this build of Goodra do so well in the late night, trying to tech it a little bit more, and that is a very cool list. But there you have it. That is the top 8 decks. Again, congratulations to every player who got top 8. And it is cool to see the decks in top 8. A couple unique Goodra decks. We did see Vigavolt Regieleki get second place. That is a deck that a lot of people thought was not very good, so it is cool to see it perform so well. Maybe Vigavolt Regieleki is actually a good deck. Who knows? Maybe it's low-key pretty good. Yeah, we do see the Arcdura deck win. I mean, the matchups for Arcdura in top 8, to be fair, was pretty darn good. I mean, a lot of Vigavolt, the Regis isn't bad. The build did play 3 Lost City, and the Regi list only had the 2 Gigas, so definitely didn't seem like a bad matchup spread for the Arcdura deck in top 8. But there you have it. That is the EU top 8 for the late night number 75. Really cool. We get to see the revival of an old archetype do well, and maybe it's time for Vigavolt Regieleki to make a stand in the standard format. Who knows? That'll be for me. If y'all enjoyed today's video here, make sure to leave a like on the video. What do you think of the top 8? What do you think of the Vigavolt Regieleki deck? What do you think of the Goodra Articuno Sableye combo deck, too? Let me know what you think down below in the comments. Make sure to check out all of our sponsors down below and all that good stuff, and I will catch you all on another video here on the Shuffle Squad. Peace out.
The Shuffle Squad is proudly sponsored by Atlas Collectibles, the best place to buy any trading card game product online. Visit atlastcg.com, and at the checkout screen, make sure to use code TSS12 to save an unbeatable 12% off your entire order. Atlas Collectibles will ship your product anywhere in the world, so make sure you're taking advantage of the 12% savings with TSS12. And if Pokemon is not your thing, don't worry. Go to atlastcg.com and see all the other amazing trading card game products they have there to offer.
The Shuffle Squad is partnered with PTCGO Store to provide our community with the best access to Pokemon TCG codes. They have codes available 24/7, instant email delivery, and you can save 5% off by using code TSS5. If you're a YouTube member or Patreon supporter, you'll have access to a special code that gets you 10% off. So what are you waiting for? Use code TSS5 today and save 5% on your next order of codes on any codes available at ptcgostore.com.
Are you trying to be the best like no one ever was? Now is your time. Head on over to Metafy.gg and search out all our amazing Pokemon TCG coaches, where you can book all sorts of training plans ranging from deck help to full season sessions with your favorite coach. What a great way to up your game. Check out Metafy.gg in the description below and take your game to the next level. Challenge yourself against trainers from around the world to compete for the biggest online prizing yet.
Are you ready for an unbelievable tournament unlike anything else you've ever seen before? The Shuffle Squad is proud to announce our newest tournament series, the Late Night Events, with an amazing grand prize that's bound to have you excited.
Players can compete via play.limitless.tcg.com's online tournament platform every Tuesday to get a chance to earn weekly prizes. And every week, your placement in the tournament is tallied by points based on your best finishes to earn your rank for the Late Night Invitational events.
The series will be conducted starting February 7th of 2023 and carry all the way through to the Invitational on July 9th of 2023, where the top players will be rewarded the grand prizing.
And the grand prize is a signed jersey and photo op with the entire Shuffle Squad, as well as a fully paid trip to the Pokemon World Championships in Yokohama, Japan. This includes hotel and airfare, whether you're a player or a spectator.
Don't forget to check out all the live coverage on our YouTube and Twitch channel of the top cuts of these events for every week. And subscribe so you can get notified where to watch the Late Night Events Invitational, brought to you by the Shuffle Squad. Now get out there and start winning. We'll see you in Japan.